Good morning. My name is Adriana Perez, and my research question is, how are the limitations of students' rights an illustration of the First Amendment in U.S. public schools? My claim is that while students have the right to express themselves however they feel appropriate, certain circumstances to restrain expression are in place for the safety and the greater good of everyone in school. My solution is that schools should implement specific guidelines on the practices allowed on campus to ensure the students' understanding of what is and what is not a limitation to their First Amendment right. Now, the First Amendment is part of the U.S. Constitution guaranteeing our rights to freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of petition, assembly, and press. As stated under the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. This leads to two clauses that protect the freedom of religion, which are the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. Now, the Establishment Clause prohibits the government from creating a law that establishes one religion as official over any other religion. And the Free Exercise Clause forbids the government from interfering with one's religious practices. Now, here is the clause under the First Amendment. Time, place, and manner restrictions. Time, place, and manner restrictions are placed to limit when, where, and how an individual may exercise their freedom rights. Time restrictions regulate when an individual is allowed to express themselves depending on time of day and how many people are around at the time. Place restrictions regulate where an individual may express themselves based on whether it's a public forum or a non-public forum. And manner restrictions regulate how an individual may express themselves due to the fact that the expression may not only be written or spoken, but it can also be conveyed as symbolic speech, such as burning the flag. Now, here is an example of a time restriction because of how many people there are and how it is not an appropriate place to express themselves. This is an example of a place restriction because it is a public forum, and this is an example of a manner restriction because it is symbolic speech, as burning of the flag is conveyed as, and it is protected under the U.S. Constitution. Now, this is my counterclaim. In Tinker versus Des Moines, a group of students was suspended for taking a stance on their support for the truce of the Vietnam War by wearing black armbands as a form of protest. The school has stated that the refusal to remove the armbands would result in suspension, which is exactly what happened to these students. Now, the parents sued the school, and the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the students, as the armbands did not cause a distraction to anyone in the classroom, and it is considered symbolic speech, which is protected by the Constitution. Therefore, declaring the school's decision to suspend the students unconstitutional. Now, here's a picture of Mary Beth and John Tinker holding their black armbands as a form of peaceful protest. Now, as for Santa Fe Independent School District, it was debated whether or not a student-led prayer should take place during a football game after school. After the school was sued by two students who practiced a different religion, the Supreme Court claimed that it was in a violation of the Establishment Clause of the kids because it was the speech took place on public government property, and they did establish a religion over another. Now, here is a picture of the students praying, and it is considered a violation. In conclusion, by setting clear rules on students' limitations, a safe learning environment is ensured for the benefits of the students without causing any disturbances. Thank you. What are your questions?
Thank you. Two questions. What evidence did you gather that you did not use, and why didn't you use it?
So I gathered evidence on how time, place, and manner restrictions apply to online speech, and I didn't use it because I decided to focus more on religion and how that would focus on public schools rather online.
And if you had more time, what additional research would you have conducted related to this issue?
Well, I would have, I would like to have looked up how time, place, and manner would apply to online speech and how students can use that to convey and express themselves online.
All right, you're done.